Welcome to Star Wars Lore with Idiots, the show where we explore the vast and complex universe of lightsabers, blasters, and the Force. Yet somehow, we manage to find humor in the fact that even with all of these powerful tools at their disposal, some characters still rely on something as simple as a stick.
And hello and welcome back to another Reality Skewed Gamers Lore with Idiots here on the RSG channel. We record this every Sunday and get it out to the masses every Friday of the same week, except unless you're a Patreon VIP, then you get it the day after because that's one of the benefits of being a Patreon. If you like the content that we're putting out, feel free to go to Reality Skewed Gamers at Patreon. It's in the description of the video. And you can help support the channel. $5 a month or more, you get VIP status with all the other bells and whistles for each VIP level, and you support the content that we're putting out, like the lore video and all the other stuff that we're doing. So yes, if you'd like to do that, please do. It allows us to do things like we are doing right now with Podbeam and Amazon, where you can download this as a podcast and listen to it whenever you want. When we get done with this episode today, I'm going to be uploading the latest episodes onto those channels. I'm a little behind on those, but I think we got up through 9 or 10 on those, so we're just 1 or 2 behind. So I'll get that done. So yes, but that being said, this is a show where I try to teach a bunch of idiots lore in the Star Wars universe, and it usually goes hanky. That's the word I'm using today is hanky. It's very hanky action going on around here. That being said, we all like to drink on this, not because it's social or anything like that. It's because these guys drive me to drink, and I'm drinking some Jim Beam as tradition. Let's see what the rest of the idiots are up to. We'll start with Karth. Karth, usually you got some coffee going on there, but is there anything magical or special in the coffee?
Yes,
Oh,
there's some Baileys and Kahlua.
oh, very nice. Karth knows this is going to be one of them days. Ram, who doesn't know how to tell time, again. Anything special you're drinking today? We did drink a lot. I got revenge on Ram between him and Heinze. I still owe Heinze. I'm gonna get his ass next time. I didn't have enough time, but I did get Ram's ass on my show last Friday. Ram, what do you anything special you're drinking today, or are you being light?
Uh, no, I'm all drinked out because I need to run to the store, and well, like you said, you mentioned time, and I forgot that we were doing this, so I did not go to the store.
As is tradition. And last but not least, someone who has a fine quality liqueur of some sort, bourbon, whiskey, or otherwise. We've got Mr. K. Big K's joining us.
I usually like to go with a nice bourbon, but today I'm going with something ruining some of my street cred, little cred I have. I'm going with a watermelon mint mojito.
Hey, that's nothing wrong with that either, man. That's a really good choice. I like that. Whatever you're in the mood for. You don't have to just stick with bourbon or whiskey. You can go with whatever floats your boat. Yeah. So, all right. Now, as is tradition, I usually allow the morons here to try to guess what the subject is because that's what they like to do, even though I don't give them a clue or anything. So I'll leave it to them this time. Do you want the quote or do you want to try to guess before I give you the quote and then try to guess afterward? Usually they both go wrong, but whichever one you guys want to try first here.
Start with the quote.
You want to start with the
Shake
quote?
it up a
Okay, we
little
have one
bit,
for the
yeah.
quote. Ram, Kay, you want to start with the quote?
Start with quote.
I
Yeah,
think this week you guys are going to get it because if not, I'm going to be mildly upset with you. All right, here's
Pressure.
your quote. I just know what you get. It says, I only know of this weapon what you taught me. To be honest, it means nothing to me or my people, nor does station or bloodline. What means more to me is honor, loyalty, character. These are the reasons I serve you. Okay, that's your quote. Let that marinate for a second in their pea-sized brains. And Kay, what do you think?
I can't answer.
Yeah, you can.
I mean I know the answer, so I'm gonna give them the.
Oh well, I think we all know the answer. Rand, what do you think? Who are we discussing this week?
I'm trying to think.
Give me an
I'm
M.
gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna go out on a limb.
If you say anything Mace related, I'm going to straight up just kick you right out the Zoom call. In fact, I don't want Ram to answer. Karth, what do you think?
Well,
He already made the
like,
face. I already knew Ram was coming up with some stupid nonsense with Mace, and
I
I'm just
want
like,
to
no.
say it's something Mando related, but I feel like we just covered
That's
that, didn't
no,
we?
no. We covered the Mandalorians. We covered their culture and stuff. So you're in the
Oh.
right ballpark.
Are we talking about a specific character that's a
Yes, a
Mandalorian?
specific character. Yes.
Oh, please say it's Canderous.
No, actually, it's not
Damn
Candace.
it.
Candy Man Spieler, no.
Is it Django Fett?
No. And I knew you were going to do that. So, all right, Kay, give the answer. I know you know what this is.
Din Djarin.
No, it's Bo-Katan.
Oh, he's the one that
Bo-Katan.
said it though.
Yeah, I know he's the one that said it to her. That's why I left the Lady Crease part out, because then you guys would have really gotten it. So yeah, I was trying to see if I could.
Damn it.
Yes. Today we're going to be covering Bo-Katan. I figured that this was a perfect time to cover her character because we just had Mando season 3 wrap up, and this is mainly her story. And I figured why don't we cover a little bit of Bo-Katan and for the peeps out there and see what the idiots know. They should know most of this stuff. Some of it they may not know. I know, you'll probably be in some of the dark on some of her history and stuff. But I think Ram, Karth, you guys are pretty well versed. I mean, I'm speaking for you, Big K, but you guys, how do you knowledge of Bo-Katan overall?
If it's in the shows, I know it. If it's in like reading with words,
Most of her
no
canon
clue.
is the shows.
If you don't have pictures, I ain't interested.
Yeah, exactly.
Read them symbols. I ain't down for this crap.
Yeah, and I certainly would not mind a picture book of hers.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
no.
Star Wars related or not.
Yeah, listen.
I'm very
I
well.
don't want it Disney related. I want. Let me make that clear. The book I want on her is not Disney appropriate.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm very peculiar and very very well versed in the realm of Katie Sackhoff.
Yes, how can you not be? And we'll discuss outside of the lore, like the origins of the character and where you can see her at. Briefly, we'll cover. Of course, we all know she's played by Katie Sackhoff. I'll remind everybody of that later on when I get that. Perfect person.
Oh.
Shut up the camera, please.
And it's awesome that she was the original voice actor on the actual character, and that it allowed her to transition perfectly into actually playing her on screen.
Well, I think that was a nice thing that they did in Clone Wars, though, is that a lot of the people that weren't established characters, they modeled them after the voice actors who played them.
Yeah, they did a really,
I think
really
that
good
was
job
kind of like
that.
a contingency plan.
Yeah. So let's get into it, shall we? Bo-Katan, yes. So let's start with as always, I'll do some lore. Now, most of the lore I get is from books. This one is mainly from Wikipedia, and really I'm just reading it verbatim for them. It just makes my job easier. Sometimes in lore series, especially with the legend stuff, I have to pull outside of this, but this is all canon. So we did Ahsoka last week. We're doing Bo this week. They're mainly almost all canon, which is really nice. So I can just pull from Wikipedia and other sources and just be like, here you go, it's from the shows. You're not missing much here. For those who haven't seen the shows and stuff, it'll give you a nice little introduction to the character. Again, just the general stuff. I'm not getting into the minutia of details with any of this stuff. If you want to get the minutia details, go watch the shows. Go read Wikipedia. Go read the source material. There's a ton of it out there, and Wikipedia does a really good job of tagging the source from where the person or people pull the information from when they write these things. Go and look at specifically for this information. So yeah. But next week is going to be a lot of, just warn you guys, it's going to be a lot of Legends material, a buttload. So Bo-Katan Kryze was a Mandalorian human female princess born to the House Kryze that during her childhood served as the royal family of Mandalore. Kryze was the sister of Satine Kryze, who affectionately nicknamed her Bo. They also had a nephew named Corky Kryze, with whom Satine was very close. She grew up flying the hills of the planet Kelevella, the homeworld of her house. Bo inherited a set of Mandalorian armor that had been passed down through several generations of their family. So if you see the armor, we'll break down her gear and armor later, that is a family set of armor. And most families of that ilk had armor that they would pass down through the generations. And we also know from our previous Mandalore episode that it doesn't matter whether you're a man or women. It's just based off position, age, stuff like that. At some point during her childhood, she took the Mandalorian creed. by performing a Mandalorian initiation ritual in the living waters in the mines of Mandalore in front of her father and the subjects of the Mandalorian royal family. She was showered with gifts and made her father proud. Priests considered the ritual as just theater for their subjects and part of the stories for children. She also believed that there was nothing magic about the living waters. Now, that being said, we know in this recent episode of Mandalorian, or in this season of Mandalorian, that got flipped on its head big time. Because she had, what would you say, an awakening when she saw the
Mythosaur.
Yeah, when she saw the mythosaur and it looked back at her, um, acknowledging her in some sort of way that kind of made her rethink everything that she, you know, kind of didn't. As far as she was concerned, they were just nice stories. Remember in the scene in episode, I think it's episode 2 or 3, where she's reading the plaque that tells a story of the first Mandalore and the mythosaur, and she's like, hey, yeah, I didn't, you take the Creed. She's basically looking at Din and saying, you take this Creed stuff seriously. I don't walk, so it's really interesting that they focused on that as part of her overall story arc. Her father died defending Mandalore, and Satine, her sister, eventually became the Duchess of Mandalore, leading the pacifists of the new Mandalorians. And they covered this, gets into the Clone Wars stuff. Now, we all know that Satine had a relationship with Obi-Wan Kenobi, but relationship between Bo and her sister was skewed, because we'll get into it. Over her life, she became a lieutenant in the Death Watch terrorist group, the commanding officer of its Night Owl subdivision, and the leader of the Mandalorian resistance, and even the Mandalore who laid claim over all of her homeworld, the planet Mandalore. Her complicated history was tied to that of her sister, Satine, as we previously mentioned, who ruled as the Duchess of Mandalore, but advocated the pacifist teachings, which brought the two siblings into conflict. Bo believed that Mandalore should take pride in its martial history and thus immediately joined Death Watch, a splinter group of those who believed in Mandalore's warrior past and opposed the new pacifist government. After Governor Pre Vizsla of the Concordia was publicly exposed as leader of the Death Watch, the splinter group was exiled from the Mandalorian system. This leads us into, again, Clone Wars stuff. In 1919 BBY, before the Battle of Yavin, Bo and Vizsla discovered the Sith Lord's Maul and Savage Press. With the Sith, they plotted to reclaim Mandalore, and through Maul's planning, united several crime syndicates to form the Shadow Collective, launching a takeover Mandalore, and Satine's rule was overthrown, and Vizsla took control of the. All right, questions so far. Does this all sound familiar to you guys? Any comments from the Peanut Gallery? Let's see how the idiots are doing right now. The blanks dare say a lot.
I mean, it's all kind of. I
Coming
always
back
like
to you. It's starting to come back to you.
Yeah, it's the history between the sisters I always find interesting, because it's kind of like through the large scope of the story that we have available to us now. It's kind of like Bo's coming back to like the way that her sister was thinking, to a degree, not verbatim, but
Not yeah, they just had a different view. I mean, the history, I think what's interesting about them, they both grew up and understood the history. Satine took it in a certain way, right? And the pacifist side of it, and
yeah,
the history of and really honor that. But Bo took the more warrior side of it, the history of the more warrior
yeah.
side, and believed that that was the path that Mandalore should take.
Well, yeah, and so I guess the better way of saying that is that they both realized. So I think Bo took a longer time realizing Satine's main issue with the Mandalorian culture,
Yes, and
which
that's
was
the
that
infighting.
the infighting, that they were responsible for spilling the majority of their own blood, which is why Satine went the hard route of pacifism, of just get rid of all of it, and then we won't have to worry about this, which only created more problems. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what Bo decides to do with that, because she's got the same mindset now of like, this is a problem, we can't have this, but it's also part of a warrior's culture. So it's like, how do you balance it? So it's interesting.
Yeah,
I like to see
definitely
it.
is. Garth, Ram, anything? Any thoughts so far? Okay.
No, I love Bo-Katan's history.
Yeah, it's really good.
Such
Now
a good character.
Yeah, such a good character and such a good story arc. Now, this leads us into Maul challenged Pre Vizsla at this time, and the Sith Lord defeated him. Thus, as we talked about in the previous Mandalore episode, he took the throne because he has a dark saber, and he appointed a kind of a puppet Prime Minister Alamic leader, ushering in the post Vizsla era. Bo and a group of Mandalorian loyalists refused to recognize Maul's rule, and they liberated Satine from the royal prison, contacting, of course, who else? Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi for help. Due to Mandalore's neutrality, though, Kenobi was forced to come alone, and he was captured by Maul, who then killed Satine. When Kenobi was brought to the prison, Bo and her rebels freed the Jedi, Mandalore was swept into a civil war as Maul's forces fought to reclaim him. Before he left the planet, Kenobi requested that the Galactic Republic be informed of the events, hoped that a Republic invasion would result in Maul's death. Less than a year later, Bo's desire was fulfilled, and the Republic laid siege to Mandalore, driving Maul from the planet. That's not true. This is where you get to season 7 of the Clone
Clone
Wars.
Clone
Wars.
Wars.
Yeah, so you see Bo gets Ahsoka and them get with Anakin and Kenobi. We talked about this in the Ahsoka episode, and then they go after Maul. They actually capture Maul. After this point, though, after all the events, they capture Maul. Everything happens with Order 66, right? Now Bo then became Lady of the House of Kryze, and then now became the Regent of Mandalore. Um, However, she lost her position when she refused to follow the newly appointed Galactic Emperor Palpatine, and Clan Saxon took over. Now, during the ensuing occupation of Mandalore, the Republic reorganized into the Galactic Empire, the safe and secure, and a new wave of violence claimed the planet. This gets into 2BBY. Clan Ren of Kronos chose to resist the Empire, leading the Imperial loyalists of Clan Saxon to fight them. These actions threw Mandalore into another civil war. You heard it here first. And then during this war,
No way.
during this war, Bo encountered Countess Ursa Wren and Sabine Wren of Clan Ren, who were seeking a Mandalorian worthy of wielding the dark saber and claim the title of Mandalore. With the Wren's approval, she took the weapon and rallied the support of several Mandalorian clans, uniting them to fight against the Empire. However, her support was not universal, as she had accepted the Darksaber as a gift instead of winning it in combat. Her rule proved to be short lived when the Empire managed to lay waste to Mandalore and its people in the Night of a Thousand Tears. Again, covered in depth in this season of The Mandalorian. With Bo additionally losing the dark saber to Moff Gideon, which she gave to him as a surrender, as a part of her surrender. But that didn't matter because Moff Gideon's a piece of shit, and in the aftermath, what came to be known as the Great Purge, Bo had to formulate a plan to reclaim the web from Moth and return to Mandalorian. And that was covered in the season of Mandalorian, which we didn't really know. We'd always been wondering, like, how did Gideon get the Darksaber? Well, now we know. After the Night of a Thousand Tears, Bo basically said, I didn't have a choice. I was in a bad position. It's either surrender or we're going to get wiped out. So she did. She gave it the Darksaber to Moff Gideon, who then wiped out the planet anyway.
Yeah.
And so, and this leads to her with her quest to go get the Darksaber.
Empire's gonna do what the Empire is gonna do.
Yes. Yes.
Alter the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Pray to
Don't
alter it any further.
So yeah. It's interesting this time in Mandalorian culture and history. Um, we've covered the Mandalorian history not only through them as a group, as a society, and where they come from, their origins. Normally, the Mandalorians, when they're fighting other people, they're united. They're like, if you're not Mandalorian, we're gonna fight you no matter what. This is kind of the first time that whether they picked the right side or bad side didn't matter. Once the call was made and the leader was formed, the Mandalorians flocked to that banner and would fight. We saw that with Exar Kun. We saw that with Darth. When the great Mandalorian wars against Revan and the Galactic Republic and other places. This is the first time that you had factions within the factions fighting on opposite sides. And so it was really interesting to see in this time period of Mandalore when a leader was formed or when there was a common enemy, half of them would be like, "Yeah, the Empire's great," and the other half's like, "No, the Empire sucks," and they would fight each other more than they would fight the Empire.
Well, that's a common theme throughout a lot of it. They because I know SWOTOR goes back and tries to develop that further in their time frame with the newest content. They try to develop the a little bit more of the infighting of things. But I mean, yeah, whenever they're a united front, they are a force to be reckoned with. Mostly because their exclusive grip on Beskar armor and weapons and stuff like that, it makes them an incredibly lethal fighting force. And so they always try to be careful. I mean, I think that was part of Palpatine's thing, was to constantly have them at odds with each other, because then they could never rally and fight against him, because he couldn't capture Mandalore while they were, if they were aggressed against or attacked, they would have just repelled it. But as long as you let them just fight themselves, because I know it's
Yeah,
a little bit
even
of
if
a tangent, but
if that had happened and the Empire had fought them, even if the Empire had won, they would have taken severe heavy losses.
Yeah, well, because that's part of what they do in Rebels, right? They talk about the Empire like using Saxon as a ploy to gain access to Beskar to develop weapons to outright kill them, right?
Yeah.
And so it was they had a real big point of contention against them. So it's always interesting that they are always kept in civil war, basically from the end of the Republic until the end of the Empire.
Yeah. And even then, I mean, and what I appreciate about this season of Mandalorian, and again, we're getting into spoilers, but if you haven't watched it till this point, then I'll tell you, they show the difference between the Imperial troopers and the best. I'll call them Beskar troopers.
Yeah,
they had it, but you can see the way the Mandalorians fought. They'd grown up with it. They knew how to use it. Plus, they knew how to use the weapons better. That even though there was more of the troopers, the Imperial troopers, the Beskar troopers, they were no match for the Mandalorians. I mean, Armor was going around with a hammer and shit, just beating their ass, dude. It was fantastic. But I think the best one is when Casca Reeves does that move where she's flying and she uses the ground. She slides against the ground, flips, turns, uses her knee rockets to take out two of them. Because she lets gravity use her momentum to get into a position where she could.
Was that Casca? I thought that was Bo-Katan.
No, that was Casca that did that
Okay.
move. Yeah. So
Sasha Banks is a badass.
yes, and her character is dope as hell too. So yeah, but I really appreciated the subtle variety of seeing the Mandalorians, what makes them such a unique fighting force.
Well, they did a lot of that too throughout the season as well. I don't know if you paid attention to it, but like every time um Din is using his backpack,
yeah,
he's clumsy as a mother. But every, like, you see Bo-Katan and Vizsla, it's graceful landings.
Axe, yeah,
Yeah,
all
that's
them.
it's all well, like coordinated, and then it's like Din just comes coming in hot and just like fumbles on the ground trying to re-get himself. And so I think that was a lot of it was just showing, like, part of it is just the use of the technology, and the other part is just the experience of what it is.
Yeah, Din showed though when he fought, and when he's going down that corridor, and you can tell the subtle differences of the way he moved and where to attack versus the troopers. Troopers were using standard moves and stuff, even though they had the weapons, but he knew where to hit them and how to hit them, and where to attack the weak points of the armor, and they were struggling to do that.
Yeah. Well, that goes to show a lot of what he learned throughout the season, because there is a bit of time between seasons, and so he's had a lot more exposure to the culture and the people.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot more going on in the background that kind of gets glossed over by 45 minutes of runtime.
Yeah. So now let's continue on, because now we're going to get into the Mandalorian. This is all the stuff I just talked about is Clone Wars and leading up to Mandalorian season 2. So on Trask, Bo joined fellow Mandalorians Axe Wolves and Casca Reeves to hijack a shipment of weapons aboard an Imperial Gazanti class cruiser. Before assaulting the transport, however, Bo, Wolves, and Reeves rescued an unknown member of the Children of the Watch, Din Djarin, and Force-sensitive youngling Grogu from a fishing boat. With Djarin's help, they successfully managed to steal the weapons and capture the cruiser. They were being transported and claiming Mandalore. Later, Djarin recruited Bo and Reeves to help the rescue of Grogu, who had been captured by Moff Gideon and was being held aboard his light cruiser. With the help of Reeves, the assassin Fennec Shan, Marshal Dune, and former bounty hunter Boba Fett, Bo was successfully captured the light cruiser's bridge. Although the victory secured control over the light cruiser, Djarin returned with a rescued Grogu and Gideon in stun cuffs, having accidentally claimed the Darksaber by defeating Gideon, thereby making him the rightful ruler of Mandalore. Bo refused to take the Darksaber from Djarin despite having him willingly relinquish it for having grown fearful due to her past. And then we get into this season of of Mandalorian, and you see Bo in the beginning of this season. She's withdrawn. She's done. Like, and I love the way they show that she's at her home planet. She's in her castle, and she's like, I don't care anymore, you know. And I like the arc that they lead her through this season of her kind of getting over that, you know, because Bo's been through a lot. She's lost a lot, and we learn a little bit more that we didn't know in this season with the, you know, learning more about what her role in was and surrender and everything like that of of her journey. And I think they did a really good job of this season. Um, really, her character arc of going through the trials and tribulations to kind of go, as you said, Karth, full circle back to becoming the leader, and
Yeah.
realizing it's not the dark saber. You know, that great quote I gave in the beginning is Jin telling her that uh, we don't give a shit about the dark saber. We follow you because you're a good leader and because you're honorable and your character and everything like that. That's why we're here, and I'll always follow you if you can, as long as you maintain those things. And to see her now um, become the leader that she was meant to be um, for Mandalore. It's really interesting. I wonder where they're going to take her story, but yeah, this is just in a nutshell her history. And if you've seen Mando season 3, you can kind of wrap it up yourself. I'll leave it to the idiots here. What are your thoughts on Bo's entire story? You know, and especially this season of Mandalorian season 3.
I loved how her story was this year. Like,
Yeah,
like we've discussed, this season was almost like the Bo season. I think she did a great job. They did a great job kind of just going over her overall story. One thing I wish they did do is kind of, I don't understand why they didn't do it, because they don't want this to be the show where you have had to have seen Rebels and you had to have seen Clone Wars, but kind of like her, like, with her sister, kind of like being
you're
like, all right, I'm
talking
gonna,
about that. Yeah.
yeah, that would have been cool as a nice little nod, but otherwise,
Well,
they
she
did
did
that.
talk about her family, and she talked about,
Yeah,
and
mostly her father and
yeah,
how he was proud of her and
yeah,
all that.
yeah,
Yeah, I think they're trying to be careful about introducing stuff back from the Clone Wars era into the current stuff because they need to make sure that they have a flight path for it before they do.
yeah.
And I think a large part of that comes just from the turmoil that Lucasfilm and Disney have had over the last year about starting projects and then shelving them. And so they don't want to introduce something and then have it go to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah,
It's like why tease a character coming back and then never write that story.
yeah.
So I think that they did a fairly good job with her story. It's like the love hate I have with Mando. I almost wish it was like another 8 episodes per season because I'd kind of wish there was a little bit more
I wish it would
flushed
have been
out.
12, yeah, and really
Yeah.
Yeah.
flush out a lot of the history and really get into these factions and their animosity. And they show a little bit here and there. There's a great scene between Axe and, Pre Vizsla, with the game and stuff. And then, of course, Grogu comes in with the no,
Oh,
no,
no.
no.
yes,
But I would say
yes,
overall,
yes.
yes, the story of Bo this season and the Mandalorian culture was really highlighted here, and I really appreciated it the most about this season of Mandalore. And Ram, what are your thoughts so far?
Mando season 3
Well, just the Bo and the character and
and
Mando
Bo
with
in
Mando.
season 3.
Yeah, or just her overall story and stuff, man.
I mean, no, I love the character of Bo. I love, obviously love Katie Sackhoff. Um, I was when season 3 started, I was on board with the idea of this is not the Mandalorian as far as the Mandalorian, but this is the Mandalorian as in a. It didn't relate to just Din Djarin. It could be Bo-Katan in this case. So I really liked that idea of having Bo-Katan be front and center because I think she deserved it. Um, that being said, I think the writing would lacked a lot in this season, but that's beside the point. Her character arc was pretty awesome. I think she had a good character arc. Love or hate some of the decisions that were made in the season. And I mean, it's just I'm excited to see what she can do in season 4. Now that we know there's a season 4 coming, I'm excited to see what she's going to be able to do now that she's gotten everybody back on Mandalore. They have the Great Forge up and running.
They're united.
Darksaber's destroyed. They're united, but the Darksaber's destroyed. But as something may have been pointed out, if the crystal wasn't destroyed, the Darksaber can be rebuilt into a new hilt.
Yeah.
And it was created by Mandalorians in the first place. So it
First
doesn't
Mandalorian
have
Jedi.
to be right. So it doesn't have to be a complete opposite of the Darksaber. I think Filoni actually discussed that at some point in time too, where it gives him the capability of designing a new Darksaber. So
and I think she's realized, and she even says it to Moff Gideon, we're stronger together. You know, than he's talking about their trinkets and stuff that he destroyed the Darksaber. And she's like, no, we're stronger together. She gets it now, that it's all right to have your differences of opinion on, like, between the children of the Watch and her forces and stuff, but that the common theme is we're Mandalorians. However you want to be a Mandalorian is cool. We just need to be united in our efforts to fight. And we know, I think the Mandalorians are going to be a big part moving forward, as they start bringing the planet back and their culture back, and everybody starts flocking there. They also have a home in Navarro now, as was made evidence with Grief saying, "Yeah, you guys have this. This is all for you." So they're going to have bases now and stuff that they can operate from too. So it's going to be really interesting to see with what we know. Thrawn's coming back. That the Mandalorians are going to be involved in a big way fighting him.
Oh yeah,
they despise the Empire.
There's no way that the Mandalorians don't make an appearance in the Ahsoka series. There's just no way. They will absolutely be in there.
I'm interested to see how Sabine starts tying all this in with her Mandalorian past, because she's from House Wren, so let's see, and we don't know what happened to her mother. We just know, but let's see what they say with her story arc, how she ties in with the Mandalorians. And that's going to be an interesting dynamic I see play out, and I'm hoping in the Ahsoka series. So I'm excited. So let's move on.
And I'm hoping that they do something with the I'm hoping they do something with the Mythosaur too. Like they've established that the Mythosaur is laying in the waters dormant, and like he
only opened his eyes twice. One for Bo.
He opened his eyes twice, right?
One for Bo and one for Grogu. And I was sitting there going, now that's some foreshadowing right there. I was like,
if we get like Bo riding the Mythosaur.
Yeah, with Grogu sitting there going,
we know somebody's riding the Mythosaurus, just when and who.
Yes.
Well, there's a degree of that you have to be a little bit careful on when it comes to the lore of that, because
I think it's just the acknowledgement that the Mythosaur is looking at those two going,
oh yeah, no, that's for sure. It's just, for me, it's like they got to be, they're boxing themselves in to a degree, right? Because we only have a certain window of time before the First Order comes over and starts messing things up.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm all for the Mandalorians getting established and doing their thing and becoming a more unified people. But it's like, I don't want them to be so like OP where it's like, why wouldn't they just throw them back into chaos or take them out or blow up their planet or whatever else? I mean, it's a lot of things like that. But I mean, that's off the subject of where we're at. But I mean, I think for the most part, it's going to be interesting to see how they push the rest of the stories moving forward. I kind of want Mando to go back a little bit to the season 1 vibes of
what they're doing,
pushing back to being a bounty hunter and doing, he's a part of things, but he's not
Yeah.
it's not going to be driving his main objectives.
Well, I
I
think
guess.
what they said at the end there, he's going to be a bounty hunter going after Imperial Remnant targets and things of that nature for the New Republic, and that'll get into the story of the Imperial Remnant and stuff as he learns things and goes
Yeah.
after targets, and yeah, so they'll tie it in that way. But he's going to be doing his, teaching Grogu, so he's now
Right.
an apprentice.
Probably regretting giving up that Beskar spear.
No, I don't think so. Grogu's wearing it, so I mean, Okay, let's talk about some two things I want to cover with Bo. Three more things, real quick. Her skills and equip. Well, two. We'll put in two. Her skills and equipment, and then just a background of the character itself outside of in Star Wars, but where she first appeared, and things of that nature. So, a former lieutenant in the Death Watch, Bo was a fierce and deadly Mandalorian warrior, extremely skilled in hand-to-hand combat. We've seen that. Jetpack maneuvers. We've seen that. And marksmanship. Oh, we've seen that. And ranged weaponry. During her rescue of Obi-Wan, for instance, on Mandalore, she was able to single-handedly defeat multiple Mandalorian fighters at once, using their own weapons against him. She was also able to hold her ground against formidable force-sensitive opponents such as Ahsoka Tano. During the siege of Mandalore, she quickly dispatched multiple Maul's Mandalorian super commandos in quick succession in an effort to subdue Almec. With her skill set, Bo led the Night Owls, a group of Mandalorian warriors within Death Watch. After the siege of Mandalore, Bo remarked to Tano that she wished she was good at something besides war. She was a very capable leader, but after her past failures, was elected to attempt to lead again against despite insistence of Sabine Wren. We saw that all play out from that in Rebels, and then what we saw in this season of Mandalorian. Her main equipment, we already talked about. Her armor is armor that's been passed down in her family for 3 generations. So if you've not seen her, if this is your first time hearing about her, she was a member of the Night Owls, and here she wore a blue. What would you say? Light blue? It's not a. It's what kind of color? It's a blue, but it's a lighter blue, and white Mandalorian armor. And of course, with that set, she had the Mandalorian van braces. She had her JT-12, and also, or as you know it, as a Z6 jetpack that she used in combat. She dual wielded Westar 35 blaster pistols. She also had a wrist blaster. She had dart launchers, gauntlet blades. She also had a whipcord launcher and a combat shield, which we saw all that play out this year in Mandalorian. And then when she had it, she had the dark saber, and you can tell that she's had a lot of use and training in the dark saber, because she's one of the only ones that I saw ever, that mastered it. How even Sabine had problems with it, and she was being trained by Kanan. But Bo is the one that had spent the most time with it, knew how to use it, and we saw that this year more than anything, with her being able to control the blade and everything. So where does Bo come from? So Bo first appeared in A Friend in Need, the 14th episode in the fourth season of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, which is the animated television series, if you don't know. In that episode, which first aired in, can you believe this, January 13th, 2012, 10 years, over 10 years ago, she was a minor character, and she was and of course, she's voiced by the lovely, the very the very wonderful Katie Sackhoff, aka Starbuck, aka lots of other roles. Um, which is interesting, she was not included in the original script for the episode, but Dave Filoni added her in, having plans for the character in the Clone Wars 5th season. The name Bo Katan was created by Filoni as a nod to his wife's cat. Filoni's wife, Convery, calls her cat Boogie, and Bo derived Bo Katan from Boogie Cat Ann. Filoni also wrote Bo to have a unique helmet design, so he created a look based on a barn owl. For A Friend in Need, Bo's character sketch was finalized by Darren Marshall. Now, following the season 5 episode, The Lawless, Bo was set to return in the Clone Wars finale. However, the show was canceled in 2013, and the episode remained unfinished until the show's revival in 2020. This is season 7 that came back. In 2016, Sackhoff revealed that Bo would return to television in the animated series in Star Wars Rebels. At Celebration Orlando, Filoni finally confirmed that Bo would appear in the 4th and final season of Rebels. And then, of course, it was announced in 2018 that we would get the 12 episodes, season 7 of the Clone Wars, which would feature Bo significantly in the Siege of Mandalore. And then we get, Katie Sackhoff later would portray Bo in the live-action Chapter 11, The Mandalorian, a role she teased in a tweet posted a year prior to the release of the episode. In November 2020, Sackhoff's stunt double for the character was Caitlin Deschelle. She needs to get credit for the live action stuff. And then, of course, we have all the stuff that happened in season. We had her appearances in season 2, and then in season 3. Bo became the show's in this season the show's co-lead. And then the official Japanese Star Wars Twitter account also teased that a past connection between Jin and Kreese would be revealed, but no such twist was prevented in season 3. I think they're waiting on that. There's something going on there. I don't know if you guys picked on it with their relationship and stuff. They have a connection of some sort. I don't know what it is, but they have a really strong connection and relationship. And I don't think they revealed it in this season, but I kind of got that sense, their friendship and stuff. But there's a deeper connection there. And I'm wondering if there's some kind of reveal that they're going to have
Between who and who?
Bo and Din.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I don't
mean,
know.
Because
I think there's got to be something there because she like listens to him, which is kind of not her style.
mm-hmm.
So there's something there that has. It's either the origin story of Din that she relates with, that he's so committed to the Mandalorians, even though he's not even born of Mandalorian blood, or something. But there's something there. I couldn't tell you what it is.
I don't know yet,
I
but
don't.
it's going to be interesting to see if anything does transpire from it. But they've laid some groundwork for that to be a possibility because remember, Bo fought heavily in the Clone Wars, and so did the Mandalorians, and Din was just a child and was saved by the Children of the Watch. But that doesn't mean that there's some kind of connection there somehow, between Bo and Din that we just don't know about. So it'll be interesting to see. So that's a little brief little history of the character, her appearances. She's a beloved character. I mean, Katie Sackhoff is a perfect person to play her. She always has. I've always loved her voice work in all these episodes of Clone Wars, Rebels, and so forth and so on. And I'm just really glad to see, kind of like Ahsoka, another strong, powerful female character that we've grown to know. God, 10 years. It's been over 10 years we've had Bo Katan. And she's one of my favorites. She's a fan favorite. She looks cool. She's badass. Katie Sackhoff plays. I mean, Jesus Christ, what more do you want? Yeah, I mean, Jesus. So we'll go around the corn here, as Grande would say, and get our final thoughts here. Kaz, your final thoughts on Bo Katan?
Well, I was gonna say, I think the connection is that every time she takes off with Din, every time she takes off the helmet, you hear a ding on the inside of his Beskar armor. But otherwise, I think I think she's a great character. I'm really glad the direction they're going in with her, and I do hope to see story wise more with her.
So what you're saying is his saber's igniting, but it isn't the dark saber.
Exactly.
There you go. Okay.
Hold on, hanky. I somehow use that
We're
word.
being
Hanky.
very hanky today. Yes.
Yes.
What was those? What was the waters of Mandalore? What was that called? It's like the
pools
pools
of Mandalore. The
pools of Mandalore.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just me, but I mean, I don't know if it was the pools of Mandalore or if she was just naturally that wet.
Oh my god.
Ram, shame on you, hanky. Karth, before I get to Ram so he can redeem himself. Your final thoughts on Bo? How much like what do you think of the character? I know you like her, but I mean, in your list of Star Wars characters, where does Bo fall for you?
I mean, it's a weird part because she's not a part of what you'd consider to be like the standard character lineup because so much of the original story focuses on a much more prominent subgroup of characters. But I do like these stories that come in and explain a lot more of what's going on, because like when you first meet Bo, you don't like her very much because she's in opposition to the main characters a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Until she saves Kenobi at the end of it, and even that is more or less because she's in spite of Maul, not because she really wants to help the Republic. And so you don't really get to like the character until you get to Rebels, where she kind of starts fighting in opposition to what's been going on. And then after that, she kind of becomes a little bit more endearing because you can see more of her struggle. I think that's always the problem with getting characters at a snippet and you have to wait a long time to get their story revealed, is that you don't fully realize who done what. So I like the character. She's not going to be on the top favorites of anything, just because I don't have enough exposure to really move her up the ladders. But
Yeah.
there's a long list of Star Wars characters that I enjoy. But I think out of like the non Jedi characters or Sith characters, she's going to be in that top 10 list because she's just, she's really good. She's a badass at what she does, but she's just, even to this point, as much as we've had with her, I think she just needs more time to develop and actually become a more endearing character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Ram, your final thoughts?
No, I love Bo-Katan. I'm interested to see where they go in season 4. Who takes over? Does she take over the throne? Because
Yeah,
I
I think
mean,
so.
technically, she was the last rightful owner of the dark saber, and if they build another one,
Well,
she's
and her
still the
bloodline,
rightful
yeah.
owner.
Yeah.
In the bloodline, obviously, she's the royal house. I think her and Armor have some stuff going on too. I think she knows more about the armor than she's letting
Yeah, they kind
on.
of hinted about that. That Death Watch is no more in the season or the episode 7. They were,
Yeah.
when Armor made that little slip there, I was like, "Were you a part of Death Watch there,
I mean,
Armor?
yeah,
What's
of
going
Well,
course
on
she
you
was.
have
Look
to
there?"
at
you
her
have to
helmet.
think. Yeah, look at her
Yeah.
helmet. Her helmet has the horns, which is
Yeah.
a signatory or a signet of
Yeah.
Death Watch, and then obviously
Well,
Bo-Katan coming from a subsect of Death Watch.
it was
Yeah.
it was a signatory of Death Watch. It was a signatory of when Gar Saxon or when Maul took over. That's a big
Mhm.
part of when that one came into prominence. It was a big one when Gar Saxon took over up until his defeat in Rebel, or I think Rebels they did redo it, but
Yeah,
yeah,
the
there's a
armor's
there,
she's a very interesting character, but I think her relationship with Bo is that she's that sage counselor that Bo needs. And that's what the armor's always been. Armor's a badass when she needs to fight, but she's more there to teach the next generation and to counsel and to let the others grow. She's the senpai, to Bo, but she respects Bo. Yeah, she really is. I mean, she has that kind of
Yeah,
relationship, Kohai
but if
senpai relationship.
you think about it, like something's being hidden about
The
Armor,
armor. Yeah, we don't have enough about
right?
her. I mean,
We don't have a name. She's the only character that we don't have a
it's the
name.
armor. Yeah, we
It's
don't
the
know anything.
armor,
I'd
right?
love to learn more. I mean, eventually I would love to do one on her, but we just don't have enough information on the armor to really get into
No.
anything on her. I mean, she's a very mysterious character in that regard. Who was she before? I mean, she's just called the armor, but there's a hell of a lot more to her character than just the armor, and she
Yeah.
knows a lot. She knows a lot more than just running this convert that that she's a part of. She knows a hell of a lot for someone
Mhm.
that is supposed to be on the outskirts as the child of the watch and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah,
Yeah.
so let us know in the
But I love
comments.
Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where her story goes. I think she's a phenomenal character, and I hope someday I get to meet Katie Sackhoff. Katie tricked me off. I mean, what?
Yeah. You ever watched? I highly recommend it. She's on Christian Harloff's podcast a lot, and I just like watching her interview and their relationships. They go way back. I mean, she after they go back 15, 20 years when he was just first starting, and she would come on the podcast just for fun because she liked it. After she got done with Battlestar, it was really cool to see those two, and I always love when she's on there. And they just gave away a signed helmet that she did for a fan, and then I think is it
She's going to be
Heinze?
in Colorado.
Yeah, Heinz is gonna get
when
his.
Heinz's gonna
He's gonna get his helmet signed by
get
her and
his helmet
stuff.
signed. Yeah, and I loved when she was at Stellar Celebration and
Yeah.
she got up there
Yeah.
and then she was just like
What I really
did
appreciate
her little pose.
what's really great about these actors that do all these projects, they're such fans of the show and the fans that when you see them doing signings, they commit the time and effort to the fans. And you can see that kind of relationship, and it's good to see that Ahmed Best and Hayden Christensen and all these people, whether you like the shows or not, if you think they're good or bad, you still love the characters. and you still love the
Mhm.
people playing them, and it's good to see that it's turning around, and and they appreciate the support of the fans. They really go out of their
Absolutely.
way to make them feel appreciated and loved is the best way to put it. So, but let us know what you guys think of Bo-Katan. Now, next week's episode is going to be a big one because I'm going to go into something really big for these guys. I'll hint it's going to be a faction. That's all I'm going to say. I'll let these
A
guys.
fraction? I'm not here for
Not a
math, man.
fraction,
Yeah.
Oh,
not a buck,
oh,
a bomb.
Weren't we talking about denominators before? That was
No,
pretty
we never
Yeah.
have. No, never been.
Yeah. Yeah.
Math is not something I will ever bring up with these
Numerators?
guys. Yeah.
Is it the order of the stick?
Mm-hmm.
Was
No
there a
such thing
great
as ever
division?
existed. No. So anyway, let us know in the comments what you think of Bo-Katan. We appreciate your feedback and comments on all these shows. This will go up on YouTube on this week on Friday. VIPs, of course, Patreons get this early, and appreciate all their feedback and support for this as well. And I will get the other episodes uploaded to Podbeam and Amazon today. So you can, again, go download it, leave comments, leave star ratings, leave thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff. So with that, we'll call this one done. So on behalf of myself and the idiots, thanks for joining us for another episode of Star Wars Lore with Idiots. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.